And we are back. And Jason, if I can be completely candid with our listeners,
Yeah.
we're not sure
Always.
how we're going to do this format as far as taking breaks and stuff like that. I just informed my co-host, my dear friend Jason, that I had to pee my brains out. I have had about a gallon of water since I woke up this morning, so I was about to die. So those last few comments when we were discussing Move and VR, I'll be honest with you, man, like my brain had stopped functioning and I was like bouncing here because I was in so much pain. So I'm not responsible for anything that I may have said right before we went to break.
I honestly don't know if we're responsible for anything we've said.
I would not claim responsibility for any part of this show. We're probably going to go back and edit out our names. Just kind of censor that. So we bear no responsibility for anything that happens.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the idea of being very transparent. So I think it's good to inform anyone listening that we have abandoned the show notes, which if you've listened up to this point, you probably already guessed.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to go back and listen, but it feels like we've been pretty smooth so far.
Yeah, no, and it's completely fine. I mean, I would rather have a series of honest conversations where we just talk about a whole lot of stuff. They have to be kind of, restrained by strict show notes or an outline.
Yeah, and I guess I'll also take the opportunity to say, this is, again, it's just us being honest and just enjoying a good conversation. But if you have any ideas, any questions, comments, snide remarks, stuff you'd like to hear from us, you can always reach out to us. And do we have everything set up for people to reach out to us, I believe, Jason?
Everything will be good to go as soon as this is posted.
Oh, very good.
So yes, yeah.
So we'll drop all the information for you. But yeah, like we always welcome people to reach out and ask questions and get involved and just make this a group effort, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. Like we may be talking about a lot of stuff in a very roundabout way. So if we got something wrong and you want to call us on it, tell us. You can shoot us an email. You can bug us on Twitter. Like anything you got. Love us, hate us, give it to us.
Well, to jump back into our discussion, right before the break, we were kind of talking about some different technologies that had come about through the years, the Move and VR. And we had mentioned this twice. You've mentioned it. I've mentioned it. So I believe it's time we get into E3 and the biggest game show of the year. See what we expect, what's announced.
Expect nothing, and you'll probably still be disappointed.
Yeah, that seems to be.
Of course, I'm talking about Nintendo.
For all the Nintendo fans out there, don't get your hopes up. Just keep them. Just press down. Just when that hope starts to rise, no, just stop it. Just press it back down. Don't let it get out of control on you.
Just remember who you're talking about. Now, I need to preface all this by saying the reason why I'm giving Nintendo a hard time is they have done something that I don't think any of the platform creators or holders or manufacturers, whatever we want to call them, the first parties have ever done. And that is this year at E3, Nintendo's presence will be apparently solely focused around one title, and that is The Legend of Zelda. Now, Zelda is my favorite franchise. Ocarina of Time is maybe my favorite game ever. Definitely top 3 if it's not the favorite. So I am a huge Nintendo fan. I think at this point in time I can call myself a loyal Nintendo fan for as long as I've stuck with them. So we can make a little fun. We can bust a little balls just because we love them. Like I love Nintendo. I really root for Nintendo, maybe more than anyone else in the space. So for them to kind of pull back this year, like Nintendo, I think it was on one of the Kind of Funny podcast I was listening to the last week or so, where they were talking about how Nintendo, when you're at E3, Nintendo is the booth like you really seek out. You proactively, you head to Nintendo because you are guaranteed to play a lot of great stuff and have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If you go to Sony's booth, which is in the same hall right across the road, the big titles, they're not playable on the floor more often than not. They may have a private session for some of the big media outlets or journalists. In the past, in 2013, when I was at E3, when we were at E3, like they had kind of private booths up like on a second floor.
Yeah.
That was reserved just for the big boys. And last year at E3, you couldn't play some of the games that they showed off at their press conference, like Uncharted 4 and Horizon and The Last Guardian. There was a showcase, about a 45-minute long showcase, where they played chunks of each of those 3 games. And you would walk into a theater, watch like 15 minutes of Horizon, then the entire theater would get up and move to the next room to then watch 15 minutes of Last Guardian, and then finally 15, 20 minutes of Uncharted. But you don't get the hands-on approach all the time. Now with Nintendo, sometimes one of the big titles, if they're not ready to be played, Nintendo's not going to let you play them.
Anybody?
No one.
Nobody gets to touch that bad boy.
Oh man, I think it was 2013 when they revealed Smash Brothers for Wii U and 3DS via their Direct. Like that was not playable on the floor. They had videos playing the whole time of Smash Brothers. But you had to wait till the next year in order to actually get hands-on.
Yeah.
Zelda is a title that's been like that in the past. Like we've seen Zelda now at several Nintendo Directs because Nintendo has foregone having a press conference like Microsoft or Sony, and they're instead having they like having Directs which are very polished, edited video presentations better than live stream. Which, actually, I mean, I don't blame them for making the change because the last live conference that Nintendo had was 2012, and it was the Wii U launch year. And that was a conference that was, oh man, criticized is putting it politely. When you're a big title, for your console launch is Nintendo Land, and they end the conference not on some big like revelation or big announcement. They didn't say, and now here's Metroid Prime 4, or here's Mario Galaxy 3. You wanted Zelda, you got it. It wasn't anything like that. It was, here's some fireworks, animated fireworks from the great theme park of Nintendo Land.
One of the best moments of E3 history.
Well, in a way.
I'll say infamous. One of the most infamous moments of E3 history.
But the whole conference was kind of like that.
Didn't a game get pulled at the last minute and they had to fill it with something?
Did it? I don't. I didn't mean to say it like that.
I remember something like that. Like they were going to show a game. Or I hope I'm not getting things mixed up, but I feel like they were going to show a game, and then they pulled it, and they had to put something there. Mm-hmm. I can't remember. I'd have to look that up and double check, but yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what it would be, honestly. I mean, the next year is when Wii U really kind of came into its own, and that was they showed off Mario 3D Land, or 3D World rather. Boy, that's a nice slip.
Yep.
I won't get into accusations of using Nintendo DS assets to make a Wii U game. I won't get into that because those are unsubstantiated, purely rumor. It's just speculation. And 3D World is a great game, a great game. I played so much of that; it's a blast. Not quite the 3D Mario I wanted, the one I expected. I did expect kind of Galaxy 3, or something else. Something that felt more like a traditional successor to Mario 64 and Sunshine and Galaxy, whatever it was, Universe or Galaxy 3. But 3D World is great. Had a blast playing it at E3 that year. Grabbed that thing day one when it hit Wii U. Awesome game. And that was the same year they showed off Mario Kart, and you could play it on the floor. You could play Pikmin 3 on the floor. Donkey Kong, Tropical Freeze, and even Wind Waker HD. Like, that was all there. It was a great year for Wii U. And I feel like the general message based on that, since I was at an E3 kind of, pretty close to a console launch, and of course that was the same launch year for PS4 and Xbox One, mm-hmm. So we got to have hands-on with those games as well.
Yeah.
I think the lesson I kind of took away from that, without touching on last year's E3 for Nintendo, which was also pretty good. Mario Maker was there. Yoshi Yarn game, whatever that's called, that was there. Kirby was there. Smash was there.
And the Treehouse. I really enjoyed the Treehouse.
Oh man, the Treehouse.
That was such a fantastic idea.
Treehouse is fantastic. And the year I wasn't there at E3 in 2014, that was the year that Splatoon was announced and shown off, and basically stole the whole show.
Yep.
But anyway, since Nintendo has now, they are stepping away this year from E3. I'm sure the showcase for Zelda is going to be fantastic. I fully expect that game. It's been in the oven for so long. It's going to be phenomenal. It has to be. But I think the lesson, if I could tell Nintendo anything, is that I actually agree with their position and their change in approach with E3. Mm-hmm. Since they announced, the NX dedicated gaming platform. We don't know what it is exactly. We don't know if it's a home console, a handheld console, if it's both. There's a lot of speculation, and you can read some very interesting patents online about it, and maybe at some point in a future show we'll get into that. But
that is a whole show within itself.
It is. It really is.
That's just going to be the NX special.
When you launch a new platform, you have to make sure the games are ready.
Yeah.
And that is something that I don't think Nintendo did with Wii U.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
They should have, in my opinion, they should have waited until 2013. And they should have launched day one with 3D World and Pikmin and Mario Kart and Donkey Kong Country and all of these great titles that came out in 2014. Instead, whether there were delays, I know Nintendo had some trouble catching up in terms of like tech and getting used to high definition programming, and so I understand that took a while to get used to, and now they've caught up and they've really changed their entire development environment and the atmosphere. In Japan with their teams, everyone's kind of together now. Handheld and console developers hang out together in a close proximity, and I think the future for Nintendo is actually brighter than the past and the present, because in the present it's a lot of uncertainty, And
absolutely.
From what I've heard, then the NX delay, there was a lot of expectation, and I believe NX was scheduled to launch November this year. I think it recently got bumped to March next year. But I've heard, and Nintendo has alluded to, that NX was moved because the games weren't ready. Mm-hmm. And right now, I will applaud them for that decision.
And I'll add not just their own games, but I think they really need to make sure that third party, the third parties really come on board for this as well. So they've got to have those games there day one as well. Just to show people that might be investing in an NX system, hey, we are actually going to have third party support this go around. We promise. It's really going to be there. They can't just say it. I don't want to hear rumors. They need to show that as well.
The vacancy for Wii U was very apparent. I don't know. I don't know if we can hope for Super Nintendo levels of third party support.
I'm hopeful though.
Not out of the gate.
Yeah, that's true. But I think once the devs realize, and again, this is all speculation based on a system that we know basically nothing about.
Yeah.
But it seems like, Nintendo, like Microsoft and PlayStation, are moving towards like a console that is basically a PC. So porting should not be an issue.
Right.
And again, this is all hypothetical. We don't know squat.
Yeah.
But the bits and pieces that we have heard and that we do know, it all seems to be what's going on. And we have heard rumors from third-party developers talking about, moving their games to NX and stuff like that. So I think this time it's actually going to happen.
Yeah, without getting too deep into NX speculation.
Yeah.
Because NX is not going to be at E3. Zelda, The Legend of Zelda for Wii U was recently confirmed to be coming to NX as well as Wii U. Now, we do not know if that means day and date. We don't know if that's a delayed release like we saw with Twilight Princess and the Wii GameCube launch, where the GameCube version, which was the original version, came out like a week or two, maybe 3 later. Came out in December, I think.
Right.
We don't know what that means. All we know for now is that The Legend of Zelda is coming to NX and will still be releasing on Wii U.
Yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
No. All I was going to say is, and the only other thing we know is Zelda's the only game from Nintendo at E3.
So on that note, moving, kind of going back to Nintendo's presence there, to be honest, like I do understand their reason for doing this. You don't want to jump the gun on things. You want to make sure everything is done correctly. With them, as much as I hate it, with them kind of giving up on the Wii U, and moving on to the NX, like it's fine. Like just rip the Band-Aid off and let's go.
Yes. Yeah, that's my sense as well.
Yeah, it hurts. I hate, that I did invest in a Wii U. It is painful, but like you, I love Nintendo. I want what's best. I want them to be successful again. I want a successful console that will sell, because when you get more people to buy into your console, you are going to get better games and everything else. So we need this to happen. So I do understand, but maybe this isn't as important, but just to throw a silver lining on their presence at E3. One thing that we do know is that if you're at E3, you've got your space, and you're given that space next year. So I think, one reason they didn't pull out completely is if they pulled it out entirely, they would lose that big space that's like in a perfect area for Nintendo. Like they would lose that. Other people would be able to buy that up. So they have to keep their space. They have to still have something there. But if Zelda is the only thing there, this is what I was joking with you about earlier. That's a really big space. And if Zelda is the only thing there, I fully expect, because Nintendo always does really badass displays, I fully expect Nintendo's entire area to be freaking Hyrule. Like, you will be walking into Hyrule. I'm sure they'll have Lost Woods and the castle and everything.
Yeah, if at minimum that booth doesn't look like Town Square Hyrule Castle, then they have failed.
No, I think if they can deliver that, like, I think people will completely forgive them. Well, maybe I'll say the people that are attending E3 will forgive them.
Well, it's shocking, not just because, well, first of all, there are still titles coming for Wii U this year, and not to mention the entire 2016 lineup for 3DS, and Nintendo is really suggesting, maybe it's more than a suggestion, maybe it's a confirmation at this point, that there are no other games that they're talking about at all.
What are the other big titles coming out this year? I know that with God, I keep wanting to call it SMT XFE, the Shin Megami Tensei
Tokyo
Mirage Sessions.
Right.
Like, that'll be over at Atlas. So
well, that's okay.
So I mean, Atlas is going to have a big booth this year because they'll be doing their Persona, and they'll be doing maybe they'll have a little row playing that game,
Yeah.
even though I feel like it's being left out there to die here in the States, unfortunately. But I know like that was my big Nintendo or my big Wii U game for the year since Zelda had been pushed back. So like, what else is there?
Um, yeah, I mean, in terms of first party support, like there's the Paper Mario game.
Oh yeah, the Paper Mario. I forgot about that.
I forget what it's called. The Paint one, I believe, which I think is worrying a few people because it seems a little too close to Sticker Star and not enough like OG Paper Mario.
Mm-hmm.
And Sticker Star was not that well received. I never got a chance to play it on 3DS, but it was not well received by the fans. And I feel like there's been a lot of this kind of experimentation within Nintendo the last few years, just judging by their output, where we see games like Sticker Star, like 3D World on Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing experimentation in HD remakes. We're seeing whatchamacallit, there was another there hasn't been like I was gonna say there hasn't been a proper Kirby game, but there have been very interesting Kirby games being designed.
I think what you're saying is there's been a lot of filler.
Yeah, I'm trying not to say filler. Like
I'm not gonna hesitate. It's
well, I mean, like the
most
bomb.
Of it's filler.
Like if we want to derail the entire conversation, like there is a big there's a big piece of filler coming out on 3DS this year in the form of Metroid Prime Federation Force.
Oh God, just it hurts, Nintendo. Please, just don't.
I feel like there have been more announcements like that where it's we heard you wanted Metroid Prime, so here's a spin-off. I feel like there's been more of that from Nintendo the last few years than there have. Here's Metroid Prime 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I feel like that's where the experimentation has kind of come in. Like, like even like Animal Crossing. We haven't had an Animal Crossing game in a while. There was not one on Wii U, and on Wii U it seems like the perfect franchise because of the inventory management that you could do on the gamepad. And instead, it's the Animal Crossing party game.
Mm-hmm.
The weird Mario Party thing. I feel like we haven't even got a real Mario Party either.
Nope. As Kyle Bossman said, this is straight up Phyllis Diller filler.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
but he's right. He's right.
He is, and I don't mind little side games, but God, when the Metroid Federation. Oh, as much as we've been wanting a Metroid game, I've been waiting for them to say it. You wanted Metroid. Here it is.
You got it.
Oh, God.
Roll the trailer, Reggie. And
Reggie, don't hurt me like that, Reggie.
And it's I don't even know who the characters are. Like they're not even like characters from the universe up to this point, are they?
I'm sure there'll be some little.
I was so turned off after the revelation. And you know what? I played last year at E3. I played Blast Ball, which is one of the multiplayer modes in Federation Force, and like that's really fun. It's a lot like it reminded me a lot of Rocket League. It's kind of this 3v3, and you're fighting to like get a ball into a goal, and yeah, that was a blast. Oh, literally. But aside from that, like you couldn't go hands on with the campaign. Like they didn't have like as far as I saw, like you couldn't do like 4-player co-op with the campaign.
Yeah,
and that might have been enough to really shut up the critics. But like from Nintendo, the way I take it is that they are very literal with their announcements and their wording. And you should never assume you're going to get something because it's so obvious that something should be there. Yeah. That's like online multiplayer in Star Fox. How in the world in the year 2016, and I know a lot of people are over people saying it's 2016 as like an example, but like we have had competitive online gaming for quite a while. we have had great games with both flight simulation and arcade style fighting, like in the air. Where is Star Fox dogfighting?
Well, I think this goes back to what I was saying. I don't know when we were discussing this a week ago or so. I really feel like Nintendo just saw the writing on the wall, and maybe it was planned. Maybe they wanted to do a lot more with Star Fox. Maybe. And I think they were just like, yeah, let's just kind of tie this up. Let's tie this up and do as little polish as possible. Let's not add all the extra stuff we wanted to do, and let's
Don't
get it
even
out
bother
there
with the graphics. Don't bother with with textures and shaders. Anything modern looking. We want to keep that 64 aesthetic.
Let's leave it in alpha and just patch the holes. Just patch the holes and set that ship on sale.
It's I admit it is mean, and I feel bad because a lot of people really like Star Fox Zero.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I have expectations based on other games that come out, including Nintendo's own.
Right, because go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
No, we know what Nintendo's capable of. We've seen what they can do.
Yeah.
Like Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, like they look and play fantastic. And mostly they look fantastic. Like the colors and vibrancy and it's just, they're fantastic games. And then there's this Nintendo 64 port.
It's shocking. And with the series like Star Fox, that's kind of been struggling a little bit. A very loyal fan base that's been clamoring for like the next title. And I feel like, not to ruffle any feathers, but I feel like that might be where a lot of the defense comes from, was Zero. Yeah. Is because what I played, what I've seen, what other critics are saying, what journalists are saying, Star Fox Zero is not too hot of a game.
Yeah.
And every game has its fans. And I think that's great. And I think developers should always strive to experiment with their IPs. I'm not saying we have to get the same thing over and over again or anything like that, but I wish that Star Fox Zero had gotten the treatment it deserves, is ultimately my point. And I honestly still can't believe, where, last fall I was finally, after quite a long time again, I was able to get back in the cockpit of an X-Wing in Star Wars Battlefront and take to the skies, and just even a simple mode like that. Battlefront has, I believe the mode is called Fighter Squadron, where it's just entirely dogfights in the air. Really simple, but it's really fun, and it can be really intense at times. And then other modes, and the bigger modes in Battlefront, air support is just crucial. But anyway, like, you could do something like that, just that dogfighting mode. You could do something like that with Star Fox, and I think it'd be a blast. And I find it a little disappointing that Nintendo chooses not to take some of these, in my opinion, obviously great and beneficial routes in their development. And sometimes you see like these ideas come about in their announcements, and like when they announced Star Fox 64 for 3DS, the 3D remake, they showed off a multiplayer mode. And when I talk about that, like, you have to take Nintendo literally at their word. Don't let the hype consume you and start brainstorming all these things they could do, because they didn't say that. When they showed off Star Fox on 3DS, and they showed like you can play with your friends, and showed like your friends' faces and their reactions through the 3D camera, like above their fighters, and like that whole thing. And like the immediate reaction to that is, oh my gosh, look at that. I can see the face on like all my opponents, my friends. I'm going to own you. You can't hide your reaction from me. What they didn't say, because they never said it was an online mode. It wasn't. It was a local multiplayer mode. And the facial expressions and reactions from your friends, you had to be in the same room playing that game. So you could have just looked. You could have just looked up from your 3DS and looked over at that. at the person you're playing with. So like, don't.
Jeez.
And that's with Nintendo. Like, you got to be careful. As exciting as what they can announce, if they don't announce it, do not expect that it's coming.
I
And that
know,
doesn't
but
mean
we do that all the time. It's
no.
so
I know.
hard
I know.
not to.
I do it every time they mention a title. So
Yeah.
believe me, I'm a total hypocrite when it comes to this.
Yep.
But it's like, it's like the ideas of Pokemon and where that franchise can go. And without getting into, we'll save that. We're gonna save.
Yeah.
What the thing you just reacted to.
Yeah.
We're gonna tease listeners right now. We're gonna save that until the end of the show. If you want to talk about that, we'll talk about that. But like with Pokemon, like this is a big year for them. Like they are launching a brand new, like real entry in the franchise, the next generation of Pokemon.
Pokemon S&M.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's a little more adult friendly this year. Pikachu's into some of that electrostimulation, if you know what I'm talking about. But like that, this is a big year for the franchise, so you would think. But it's so big that it's not going to have presence at Nintendo's E3 booth.
Yeah,
like that's weird to me.
I feel like that's going to change. Like, you can't not say something about all this stuff. Like, they've at least got to have. I don't know. Well, I guess they wouldn't really have that for a demo, but
believe me, they don't have to do anything.
Yeah, I know.
Whenever you expect Nintendo to do something, they tend to swerve and do something else. And that's what's cool on one hand about the company, but it can also be disappointing as a fan because you look at what other companies do, what Microsoft and Sony do. And sometimes you're like, oh, I kind of wish Nintendo would just do that. And that's where the frustration comes, where some people look at Nintendo news and they just go, why can't they just go third party and make PlayStation games? Because at least I could get the games I love on a platform that's successful, that has a huge player base, that has a ton of like horsepower behind it. Well, a ton. Well, I won't get into that. I'm not gonna diss on console specs right now, but like it's right now of the three, Wii U, PS4, Xbox One, Sony, they're king of the castle in terms of the spec race.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you play games like oh man, like The Order or Killzone or Infamous. Like these games look fantastic, right? They still look great. I finally picked up Infamous First Light again this last week to play through it. I mean, the last month or so, I got back into Sunset Overdrive, and I finally beat Sunset Overdrive. Fantastic game from Insomniac. I loved it. They developed the Ratchet and Clank series, but it's an Xbox title, and I forget if it's on PC as well, but it was launched as an Xbox One exclusive. It's a great game. If you haven't played it, check it out. Ton of fun. Open world, zany weapons, characters. It's a blast. So after I finished Sunset, I was like kind of itching for more of that. So I picked up Infamous First Light again, which I started, when it came out, when it hit Plus, whenever last year. And it's really fun. The traversal, the powers, gorgeous game. And you play stuff like that, or I play stuff like that. And I do think with the technical wizards that work at Nintendo, they can squeeze every ounce of their hardware into something just magical at times. Like Mario Kart, I don't care what resolution it runs at. I don't care if it skips a frame. It's got a weird like little glitch, I think, where it's like 59 frames instead of 60, so it like repeats a frame or skips a frame or something. Like I don't really care because like visually, like the impact is there. It looks phenomenal on hardware that you wouldn't think they could utilize that well. But they do, and they surprise time and time again. So they have the technical ability, they have the creative ability, and sometimes you wish, as an onlooker, as a Nintendo fan, that they could just throw in the towel on hardware and just go third party. And I've been hearing and reading online the call for that again with this E3 2016 news. where it's just like, if you don't have any games, what the heck are you doing? Just get out.
You know, we've talked about that so many times, but I was actually watching, I guess, what's his new show? Pachter Factor. So I was watching Michael Pachter, who has his show over on sifted.net. And he always reminds us of the important facts, like him or hate him. He's always got a brilliant perspective on stuff. And he was reminding the viewers on the show that whatever happens, even if the NX is a failure, whatever happens, Nintendo has, a war chest of, oh God, I don't even want to guess at the number. This is a guess. All I know is that the billion is correct. He said like $20 billion, whatever their war chest is, whatever the actual number is, it's still in the billions. So like, they're fine. They're not, yeah, sure. They're, worried about, making sure things go smoothly, but they're not at the point, nor will they be at the point for a long time where it's do or die.
No, absolutely not. I mean, they don't need to bow out of anything that they don't want. Like, NX could flop, and it doesn't matter. Like, I think the money in terms of console sales matters very little to the impact and the staying power of their marquee characters.
Right.
Nintendo's IPs, those characters, those franchises, are almost second to none in any media. Like, they're comparable to Disney, and that's about it.
That's actually what I was going to say. And not, Disney is obviously, though they share similar, kind of things between the companies. Like, Disney is obviously like a mountain compared to Nintendo being a little ant. But like, as far as like their properties and what they can do with them and all that kind of stuff, they are very much like Disney, where like Disney doesn't have to make a single movie for the next 100 years, and they'll just continue to turn an ungodly amount of profit because of the parks and the rides and the merchandise and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, and
so
now they have the power of Marvel and Star Wars to lean on.
Oh yeah, and though again, Nintendo is not nearly the size company that Disney is. Nintendo kind of has that power where, like, all the stuff that they sell around the world, all their merchandise, and now they are making the deals. Did they make the deal with Universal, or was it Disney, or
Universal?
Yeah, it is Universal. Okay, so like they've got rides coming, so Nintendo's going to be fine. And I think it's kind of hard to think about that, because like, I kind of want them to have their back against the wall. I want them to be in a do or die situation, because that's what's going to get their butts busy to do what they need to do.
These console makers, these first parties, they put their best work in action when their backs are against the wall. When they fumble the ball, and they have to kind of regroup and plan for the next time. That's when great things happen. And we saw that with Sony. And, coming off the just incredible success of PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, like, there is you have to wonder how high that arrogance goes, where they came out with PS3 and they start like whipping around $599. It's the bestest, most powerfulest console ever. And you like get another job. That's how you're gonna afford it. Ken Kutaragi, I think, said that.
Yep.
Like, in that arrogance, when then it doesn't travel well, it doesn't work well with the fans and the market. Like, you get dropped a couple pegs, and even though by the end of the generation, like, PlayStation 3 sales caught up with Xbox One sales, and both did very, very well. Nintendo Wii sold tremendously well, far beyond those two. But Sony was able to recover, and then with PlayStation 4, you saw like a company that was a little more humble, in their, in their messaging, they're delivering how they talk to not just journalists but their audience, and they delivered what fans wanted
Yeah, it was
all along.
they went through a huge change in mindset at the company.
And I think it
Their whole
benefited them
approach, yeah.
tremendously.
Oh, yeah, so much so.
Like, and we just saw, like, they call it, the third console curse. And, I kind of wonder, like, if that's really a thing. I think with Nintendo, it's a little different because the bridges that were burnt with retailers and third parties during the Super Nintendo era and then the N64 era,
Mm-hmm.
like, that was already going. Those fires started long ago. Nintendo's arrogance was in full force
Mm-hmm.
before their third home console hit market. But we saw, like, what happens to a console when you lose third-party support. What happens when someone else comes out and wants to compete with you? And it was PlayStation that won that battle. And we're going to talk about console wars, It's a little pointless because, these consoles, yes, they compete with each other. Yes, they compete for mind share and market share. But, at the end of the day, it's all about how healthy the industry can remain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the reason why you'll see Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, praise Naughty Dog for Uncharted 4 and praise PlayStation and Sony and all those guys there. Because, they're all in this together. Like, there isn't a real war to the extent that some fans like to, turn it into. Like the Playground days, the Mario versus Sonic wars, that's over. For the most part, I haven't been on a playground in a while. Maybe, maybe they wouldn't be arguing about Mario though. And they wouldn't be talking about Halo now either.
That's a whole different discussion. Yeah, the kids on the playground, they don't give a crap about Mario.
Yeah, they're talking about mobile games.
Yep.
But like with Microsoft and the Xbox One, like we saw what happens, like with arrogance, again. And Microsoft came out in 2013. They reveal, the Xbox One, and a lot of us remember the May showcase of TV, sports, TV. Oh, by the way, Forza's also here. And let's talk about Halo, but not a Halo game. We're going to talk about a Halo TV series. And that spoke volumes to, I think, consumers and audiences and Xbox owners. Like, Xbox 360, it might honestly be my favorite console ever. Like, I played so much on that console. Great games. First party support was, it waned a little in the end, but that always seems to happen. Well, maybe that's just Nintendo and Microsoft where that seems to happen. Whereas, like, the life cycle of the console is, like, nearing its end. That first party support kind of disappears. But we saw that, and Microsoft is currently in their humility, humble approach right now. Once Phil Spencer took over the division and they've definitely been, like, changing their messaging. And I think under Phil Spencer's leadership, like, Xbox One has made some really good strides, and how that company is changing, or how the console is changing. Well, the company changed as well. A new CEO who has a real focus on software over hardware, on cloud computing. It's really interesting.
Yeah, see, that's why I'm curious about Microsoft, to see what's going to happen with them, because I know we kind of know where Phil Spencer's, like, where his mindset is. We kind of know the direction he wants to go, but it seems like, and maybe I'm totally wrong, but I feel like where he wants to go is a total different direction from where their CEO wants to go for Microsoft. And maybe I'm wrong. It's just, I don't know. I can't even imagine what's going to happen with Microsoft over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think when you have a video game console, a dedicated piece of hardware, when Microsoft is stepping away from hardware and really trying to not just double down, like, they're going all in on software support and digital this and that, and unifying Windows across all their platforms. I mean, like, I think that's very smart.
Right.
And over the last 6-9 months, like, I think the fate of the Xbox platform has been up in the air. And it took Microsoft and Phil Spencer and to kind of step forward and really explain the future of Xbox as a platform. The fear of like, well, is Xbox just going to be like an Apple TV that you buy in the future and you hide it under your new 4K screen and like that's it? Is there even going to be like a big glorious box that you that you play these games on? Is it just going to talk to your computer? Is it just going to stream games from the cloud? Like what's happening? Because we're seeing first party console titles migrate over to Windows 10 PCs.
Mm-hmm.
And that does, I don't know if it makes people nervous, but when your console lives and dies on the software support it gets, especially from its first party. When Microsoft is kind of killing off their studios, Lionhead just bit the dust not too long ago. Project Spark got canceled. There's no word on if this Project Spark team is, going to be dissolved as well. I hope not. But they're really kind of picking and choosing the types of franchises they support, and it's the really popular ones. It's Halo, it's Gears of War, it's Forza, and they would rather, seemingly, and I could be completely wrong on this, they would rather lean on really creative, talented, independent game developers and grab those titles and bring them over, like Below, like Cuphead, like Ori and the Blind Forest, things like that. They'd rather showcase that than roll the dice on Fable 4 because they don't know how that's going to be received.
Yeah, and I think that's what's going to make Microsoft's presentation this year at E3 so interesting, or I'll say potentially interesting, because they might not address any of this at all. But yeah, there's been a lot of questions as to what their next step is. This was before PlayStation even announced, the Neo, the PS 4.5 or PS 4K, whatever you want to call it. We were wondering about them before PlayStation announced their thing, before all this stuff started coming out about Nintendo NX.
Yeah.
So now the game is changing yet again while Microsoft was trying to evolve. So yeah, I think that could be a really interesting presentation just to hear. Like, I don't even need to hear specifics about systems or anything like that. I just want to know, where is Microsoft going from here?
I think you're right. I think Microsoft, their direction is probably the most shrouded in mystery, even more than NX.
Yeah. Because
we already kind of have a certain level of expectation with Nintendo. They're going to do something different. They're going to try to flip the table on the whole thing. They're going to be Nintendo. We don't really know what Xbox is anymore.
Yeah, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Phil say that he was against an iterative, a kind of middle? My brain just shut off on me.
No.
But an Xbox 1.5.
Yes, that's exactly what he said. He has no interest in an Xbox 1.5. He feels like if they're going to launch a platform with boosted specs, that they're going to go all the way with it. They're going to make it an upgrade worth, pursuing, which I think, that's a kind of a shot across the bow of Sony.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not at all poo-hooing the PS4 Neo specs that Giant Bomb posted.
Right.
And that other media outlets and journalists have been kind of hearing about lately. We're talking about, it's a pretty significant boost, I think. I mean, you're talking the doubling of GPU power. Maybe not a big CPU upgrade, but I mean, that's okay, because they still want it to be a PS4. They still need it to be like in the ballpark of, not the same specs, but I can understand, like, in terms of coding and developing games, that, if you had a super powerful CPU in a PS4 Neo, it could maybe cause some problems when you're trying to optimize for PS4. Maybe, and I could be completely wrong about that. But the GPU boost alone is significant, and I think when Sony starts showing off Neo titles, especially games, maybe not this year, but next year, that were kind of developed day one with Neo in mind. From what I understand,
they better start showing them this year if they're planning on supposedly launching in October.
Well, like I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Maybe it's the PC, optimization approach, where you're going to have two settings on PS4. You're going to have Neo, and you're going to have, PS4 original. Mm-hmm. But always when you develop from the beginning with a certain spec level in mind, you seem to get the best performance out of that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what I mean. Like, just because you can make Uncharted 4 look a little better, and maybe it'll look a lot better on Neo if they decide to upgrade it, or patch it for that new platform. I mean, there's a big difference between that, as good as that could look, and a game that is day one programmed with Neo specs in mind. So I'm very interested in what Sony shows off with that, and because I think they have a lot to prove when you make an announcement that to a lot of people seems like the fracturing of the user base. That's not what it is, but I understand how it can look like that.
Right, and I know a lot of people have wondered why PlayStation is doing this, and I really see it for two reasons. Like, one, with Nintendo launching a new console, PlayStation, like we've said, PlayStation wants to be able to say, this is still the best place to play. Wait, I'm sorry. Maybe that's Xbox's catchphrase. I can't remember. Anyway, but PlayStation, they always want to be able to say, we have the best graphics. We have the best console, most powerful.
Yeah.
And if Nintendo drops the NX, now all of a sudden they can't say that anymore. So one, they want to be able to still say that. And two, I think it might be less about the regular games and more about PSVR, because that VR headset to really look good, it needs a better CPU, GPU. It needs a better system to run, and it will run on PS4, right? It's going to have the system add-on for PS4.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. It's PSVR is going to run perfectly on PS4, but
it'll look better.
Well,
work better on video.
Well, yeah, that's the implication. When you have double the GPU power, when you start, kind of rivaling some PC specs, or more specifically, when you start matching like requirements for Oculus Rift,
right,
or the HTC Vive, and you want to jump into the VR space, and that was a concern by a lot of people. Like I tried PSVR at E3 last year. I tried PSVR and Oculus Rift. First time I tried VR, and the first demo I played was The Kitchen from Capcom.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's a reaction video of a bunch of people who are like screaming and reacting to The Kitchen like it's this horrifying thing. And I did not make that video. And the reason is I was not screaming. I was laughing the whole time because what happened, and also my demo was just a titch glitchy. I'm sure I'm not saying the game's glitchy or anything like that, but you're at E3, things are not finished. It happens.
Right.
So there was a weird kind of detachment between my in-game hands and my real hands, which are holding onto the DualShock 4 controller. And part of the demo, there's a video camera on a tripod in front of you as you're like strapped in a chair in this kitchen. It looks like you're trapped in like freaking Saw or something. Or just Seven. Something a little more lighthearted, like Seven. And you're supposed to like knock over the camcorder with your hands that are like supposed to be tied together. And that wouldn't work, right? So it kind of glitched, and the developers or whoever was running the demo station, they came over and we had to play around with some stuff. But my experience with the kitchen, my first VR experience was kind of mind blowing, because my first thought when I put on then called Morpheus, now VR, PSVR, was my first thought was, oh, I can tell, this is lower resolution. I can tell, having a screen press that close against your eyes, and oh, okay, like it was noticeable. And 20 seconds later, I forgot all of that. Mm. The pixel counting, the number crunching, the resolution scoffing, for me, that disappeared 20 seconds later. The moment like the 3D audio kicked in, and you're like, wait, what was that? and you look over, and there's someone like talking to you on the floor. And yeah, of course you were kind of aware of, this is a video game character, he doesn't look real. You were kind of aware of that, but the sense of presence kicks in pretty strongly fairly quickly. And those questions kind of stop, even though you're observing it, you're making that observation, those questions stop running in your head. And I kept experiencing that throughout my entire tour through VR.
Yeah.
Because I played that's a strong word. I was a member of the audience for the what's her name, Hatsune Miku.
Oh yeah.
For her concert live at E3.
I'm still so mad I missed her in concert when she was out here in LA a week ago.
That would be quite the experience.
That would have been so neat.
You know what's funny? Because I've watched some of the Splatoon videos in that style. Like they have concerts in Japan using that same style.
Yeah.
I've seen some of that like on YouTube and stuff. And it's really interesting. That experience being live in concert for an anime character brought to life in 3D in VR, like it is nuts, because that demo was a 2-part experience. I was sitting down in a chair, and the developer or whoever running the kiosk gave me a Move controller that doubles as a glow stick in the game. And
oh god, I wish I had recorded.
And so you can wave it around, and then there are all these like shadows. That's the creepiest thing in VR. They had like these nondescript audience members that you're in the middle of, and they all look like black shadows in 3D with the song.
That's kind of terrifying.
And then they start like waving glow sticks, and you're like, okay, you don't want to like upset the darkness. And then so like half the demo is you're in the audience, and you can move around. It all has like 3D depth tracking with the PlayStation camera. So you can move around, and that's weird when you can like kind of lean over and check out people down the row that you're standing in or sitting in. That's trippy. And then the second half of the demo, they bring you on stage, and then she like dances in front of you and dances around you, and you can like, you're looking at the entire arena of people of just terrifying black shadows staring at you, waving glow sticks. But it is nuts, because it really feels like once the presence kicks in, it feels like this anime character is standing in front of you, like for real. And like that's impossible. Of course it is. But the way the tech works, it's so good right now, even at a level like last year with PSVR, running on PS4, not Neo, but PS4 specs. Like, it's really impressive. Screw resolution, screw textures, and any of that stuff. When it works beautifully. And then I got to play some of the more traditional games, Battlezone in VR, which I freaking loved. And then Riggs, believe the hype. Riggs is fantastic. It is the only VR game that I did get like a sense of vertigo, though, because you run around in a mech, and it's kind of like a big esport arena.
Oh thing. Yeah, you said when you went up the shaft or went up the elevator to get into the mech.
Yeah, the first thing they do in Riggs, at least in the demo, was that they basically show you're standing in like I don't know where it was, not a warehouse, it like just a big like kind of convention hall type thing, and they show your mech, and you can kind of like examine the scale of it to a certain extent, and then they put you inside of it, which is a great tutorial. Taking these steps to get the brain used to these things. They get you in the mech, and then you look around and you see your virtual body, your avatar's body, and you see your other teammates' mechs, and their avatars in there as well. And then they push you up this elevator, and then you're on the like playing field. And there was a moment, because like it's a really intense experience. Like physically, you feel it. It is almost, at least at that time when I played it, and maybe that was just my experience, because your mileage may vary with VR. Everyone's going to react differently to every single game. Like it was kind of intense, and like there was a time where I was killed, because you don't really die. You're like ejected from your mech, and then you respawn.
Oh god, that sounds even worse.
Yeah,
like being ejected from your mech, go flying through the air, the ground hurtling towards you.
They launch you like 100 feet in the air, and you look down, and it looks like a real 100 feet. And that was like the first sense of like vertigo, where I was like, I don't know if I can make it, guys. And then they put you back in the mech, and you keep playing. And then the last game I played in VR was on Oculus Rift, and that was Eve Valkyrie. And that was probably like like the greatest gaming experience ever. To be really hyperbolic about it.
Yeah, that's what I hear. For everything that people have played, everybody kind of says that Eve is like the one game that they could actually see themselves really getting into and playing.
Yeah, and I don't know how the final version, the retail copy, like I don't know how that's going to end up or what that full game looks like. But the 7-minute demo I had at Oculus's booth was no kidding. It was one of the best gaming experiences I may have ever had, just because with the additional power using their PC rigs, like you had a game that looked phenomenal in VR. Like that difference in resolution was apparent. Now, and that's not to say that you're not getting that sense of presence and it's not amazing in PSVR, because it is. But you can see what more powerful hardware can offer you in virtual reality. And I think that's important going forward. And ultimately, like you were saying earlier, might be the purpose of bringing out Neo now, presumably this fall.
This is going to be, I guess, to move on to PlayStation with this, talking about expectations at E3. This is going to be a very, very important year for them. For the hardcore fans, I think people are mostly sold, but PlayStation has to sell the general audiences on PSVR. Yeah. And the last presentation they had at the PlayStation Experience, that ain't going to cut it.
Broken Tron or whatever they showed. Oh
god, that was so embarrassing. And then like what was it? They were showing the thing where like your two characters stand on platforms opposite each other, and you have to like throw like darts or whatever it was at the other character.
Yeah.
And then like the other guy's character broke, and he was like stuck, and he couldn't do anything. So he's like, I'm just gonna sit here and throw these darts at your body since you can't move. It was just bad. It was just bad presentations. And all the stuff they could have showed, like the stuff that you saw, the stuff that I've seen in E3, they could have shown any of that. And I don't know why they went with this weird little demo.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, exactly. When you have retail titles that have already been announced, why are you showing a tech demo?
Yep.
Just show rigs again. Show the Ace Combat trailer that they showed in that same presentation. Show that earlier.
And so this is going to be crucial. They've got to nail VR, because this is their last big chance before the launch. This is it. I mean, sure, they can have something, they'll have an event or whatever. But as far as the media coverage, not just in the gaming industry, but like in general, like that's what E3 is. Like,
absolutely, yes.
You're letting the world and companies, you're letting everybody know, not just the gaming community, what's coming and what you're doing. And they have not done a very good job of selling PSVR. So this is their moment. They've got to nail this. So I'm excited to see some new stuff. Maybe even like they showed Ark, and Ark is coming out this year. The kind of Jurassic World game. What's the other one? I keep wanting to say Will Robinson. The Robinsons.
No, the
It's another
Crytek game,
Jurassic
right?
thing.
Yeah,
Like whatever
I
it
know
was,
what you're
it
talking
started with the little robot with the. It started with the little Dinklebot talking
Yeah.
to you, and then it took you like through and you saw the dinosaurs and stuff. Like if they could maybe have somebody play that, like that would be kind of cool. Or I don't know. I want to see some really good stuff, and they need to show some full games like that that people can look forward to playing.
Yeah, and
So hopefully they're prepared because this has got to be it for them.
it's a very interesting position they're in right now because one, like VR is already out there in the wild for consumers. Like you can get an Oculus Rift. Well, okay, because of the supply and demand thing that's going on right now, you may not be able to get an Oculus Rift or a Vive, but they are out there, and I'm sure HTC and Oculus, they are working day and night to make sure that more people can get the stuff that they bought.
Mm-hmm.
So it might take some time, but it'll come. But in the meantime, like Sony is preparing because there's going to be like 50 million PS4s in the wild by November this year or something.
Yep.
Maybe it's already 50. The thing sells so well. Like they already have that many people that they can go, listen, for X amount of money, for $400, whatever it is for PSVR, you can have this, premier VR experience. Like they're going to be selling that hard, and it's more mass market than how many people have like amazing PC rigs that can run VR. Like it's still expensive. I'm not saying the cost for a gaming rig isn't worth it, because I think it is, but for most people, for the general population, it's not. And Sony they're in a very advantageous position because they have 50 million people that they can go, boom, you want VR? Here it is. Are you in the market for VR, but you haven't jumped into PlayStation yet? Well, here you go. I'm sure there's going to be some bundle, maybe with Neo, where they're going to go, here, for the same price as an Oculus Rift and whatever, like a new GPU. Low-end GPU, would that cost? For $800 or $900, whatever it is, you can get it like an ultimate PlayStation VR bundle.
Oh, maybe God, I don't want to spend the money, but I know I'm going to.
But Sony's in a great position.
Yeah.
And they can lean on their brand. Oculus is still a new brand, even though they have Facebook behind them, and and HTC is a dying brand, but Steam is Valve is a very powerful brand. So yeah, I mean, Sony has some advantages. One is their user base and their dedicated players, and so they have the potential to kind of be the number one game or number one name in the game this year.
Yeah, and I think they're definitely taking the right approach with the price tag, because that's what really matters. Like you gotta
show the games though.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Enough of the tech demos. You got to show the real games, and that is my one kind of criticism of VR, at least in terms of what Sony has shown so far.
Yeah,
where's the like big single player experiences? Where's the full game, like the AAA title that I can play?
And I think we're going to see that because,
of course,
Shu said that, I forgot how many he said are in development, but he said like there's a lot of VR games in development that have been done from the ground up. Plus, all these other games that you're already playing are going to have the VR option, so you can play, I don't know, Uncharted 4 in VR if you want to. But yeah, supposedly there were all these games in development that we haven't seen. So hopefully Sony's done really well for the most part. Like all their presentations have been fantastic recently for the most part, with the exception of that last VR presentation at PlayStation Experience. So I think maybe they're really going to bring it. They're going to show everything they've got on VR, which would be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, like GT Sports, or is it GT Sport? I don't know. I don't know if there's an S or not at the end. That new Gran Turismo game.
Oh yeah,
that's in VR.
Oh, you that's going to be there. You're going to be.
No, I know. There's
no way.
That's the type of game you need to show.
Mm-hmm.
and you need journalists losing their minds when they get, behind the VR wheel of those cars. Like you need to, you need some of this stuff. You need to show how genres can work in VR. Like there's, first person shooters, not an ideal, VR genre to tackle right now.
Yeah.
There's a nausea issue, understandably, but show the ones that can work while technology catches up to fix those problems, because that's going to happen. Like someone's going to figure it out.
Yep.
Like Ubisoft is already playing around with how your field of view can change in VR based on the speed that you're turning, and that they're using that. It's the Eagle demo, whatever that's called, or the Eagle game, where you're basically like an eagle flying through like some Uncharted Assassin's Creed city, and you can like race and like fight against other eagles or something like that.
Yeah, I remember it. I can't remember too much, but I remember seeing the video for it.
Yeah. So show the big guns. If you've got them, you need to show them.
Yeah, there is no other time for that. So it's not like we can say, well, maybe they'll show it. No, like this is big gun time.
Yeah. I think before we transition away from this, I want to double back to Microsoft real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I mentioned, the mystery surrounding their direction. Like we don't know if there's a next Xbox. We don't know if it's gonna be an iterative box like Neo.
Yeah.
Is it gonna be? Are they just cutting off Xbox One early? Are they going like full next gen on this thing? We don't know. Probably not, but we don't know. Maybe they say nothing about a new Xbox, and I think they're well within their right. I think I've mentioned this to you in the past, but I think from the beginning of this generation, which started with Wii U and PS4, Xbox One launches, so that 2012, 2013, this is not going to be another 360, PS3, Wii generation where it lasts a decade.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen. The developers do not want that. I think, even though it's easier on consumers' wallets, I think the vast majority of console gamers, I think 10 years is too long. Tech moves way too quickly, and I think 5 years is fair. I think 6 years maybe is kind of like right on the money.
Well, see, everything's changing now.
It is, absolutely.
Because now you've got these mid-generation consoles. So, I know we talked about the generation not lasting long, but if you have these small steps along the way,
generation never ends.
Then, yeah, does it just keep going?
Yeah.
And then as far as Microsoft goes, you saw the blowback PlayStation got with the PS4.5 from the fans. Yeah. Like, people were pissed. And that's not even with them making the PS4, the original PS4, irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because with PS4.5, the PS4 is still relevant. Both consoles go hand in hand, play the same games moving forward. But if Phil decides that they don't want to do a mid-generation console and they want to move on, then you're telling everybody who has invested in the Xbox One so far, I'm sorry, but we're just going to keep going, because it's
a Nintendo problem.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe Phil and Microsoft, maybe they have to give in. Maybe they just have to go with the flow on this one. And throw out I give up on that word.
Iterative.
Thank you. I'll let you say it from now on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very tricky position to be in, because like there are certain expectations when you buy a console, or when you have up until this point. Like, this industry is changing rapidly. Like I think next time we can talk about like what iterative design and consoles can mean, and how that can impact the future of the console business and game design and all that.
Yep.
But like there's a certain level of expectation when I buy a Nintendo console. Like, I expect a Mario game, a Mario Kart game, a Smash Brothers game, a Zelda game, a whatever, a Metroid game. That will never come. You know, like, that's why you buy this stuff. You get a PlayStation because, you hope one day Sony's going to bring back Crash Bandicoot, get those rights from Activision, or Jack and Daxter, or Ratchet and Clank and God of War, and all of these. You want the first party franchises. That's part of the reason why you invest in a console. Mm-hmm. With Microsoft, it's like they have some big heavy hitters that they've had huge success with: Halo, Gears, Forza, and how, like, which games they really lean on and promote. That's changing in terms of a first party support and lineup.
Yeah.
And I could see them, in a way, I'm not saying they're going to do this, but I could see them saying, well, listen, you did get Halo. You got the Master Chief Collection 2 years ago. You got Halo 5 Guardians last year, and we're still supporting, and we have plans to support. And by the way, their support on Halo 5 is fantastic. Free updates, new maps, new modes, armor. I was going to call them costumes, armor, weapons, all that stuff, just for free. Thanks for playing. And I love that. I don't think map packs. I don't think they should ever charge in first-person shooters anymore. In my opinion, I think that's an old way of doing business because it fractures the user base. When a season pass comes out for Call of Duty or Battlefield or whatever, which is happening for both Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and Battlefield 1 this year. Like, season passes, you are drawing a hard line in your player base. And I don't understand that. I would much rather you just nickel and dime everyone for costumes and cosmetics and like gun like patterns and stuff. Don't charge for maps. I like being able to play with the same amount of people I've always played with, and I like being able, like, you risk turning your map packs, and Halo saw this at times. I mean, all kinds of games have seen this, where the DLC packs, they turn into ghost towns. No one's really playing them. Titanfall, like, I don't believe Titanfall 2. I swear they said this. Respawn said this. Maybe they haven't. Maybe I'm making it up. But I swear they said that they are leaving the season pass idea behind, and they're just going to have free updates with Titanfall 2. Like I said, I could be making that up. And if I am, I hope they do it, because the DLC maps, ghost towns, and none of them were named Ghost Town. It's not like I think there was a Ghost Town map in Halo. But anyway, to go back to the point where they could say, we gave you Halo 5 last year and we're still supporting it, and Halo Wars 2 comes out fall 2016. I could see Microsoft saying, well, Halo 6, it's not going to be on Xbox One, or it's going to be on some more enhanced version of Xbox One, just so that they can leave the hardware behind. Xbox One was designed to be this all-in-one console, and it kind of failed at doing that for most people. It put Kinect first. It put your cable box first in a weird way, especially in the age of cord cutting.
Yeah.
Still great, like, media support and app support, and it's going to get better this summer with Windows 10, or the Universal Windows Platform apps coming to Xbox. That's really exciting. That's great. I think that's probably the future of Xbox, is being not the set-top box. I still think you're gonna design games for a dedicated Xbox platform. I think you're still going to have good hardware in those boxes. But I think that's going to be one of the few pieces of hardware that Microsoft produces. It already is. And they're going to say, yeah, the next version of Xbox, whether that's an Xbox 4 or 4K or Xbox 2, TWO, whatever they want to call it. I think they're going to lead with, guess what? You design on PC, you design on Windows 10, it's automatically supported on Xbox 4 or Xbox 2. And we're going to see the start of that this year. I don't know, honestly, how far that's going to extend with this console. And I think if anyone's going to jump the gun, if we are going to have traditional console cycles and generations, even with Neo on the horizon, and we've been hearing that NX might be also embracing the iterative design as well, where you have a base platform. And when we say iterative, we mean kind of like an iPhone or an iPad, where you have this like a base level of tech that you support and you design for, but then you're always releasing either annually or every couple years or every 3 years. You release a better version of that to take advantage of new technology without cutting off the limb and flipping off all of the early adopters who bought the last version.
Right, and I think that's what's going to be really interesting to see what Microsoft does, because if they were to go ahead and try to move on, and I think that they would have to figure out a way to make everything backwards compatible, but not just backwards compatible, but also as far as like multiplayer, like you want to be able to have their Xbox One and whatever they want to call the next one communicate and allow players to play with each other.
Yeah.
And then, saying that, that's basically what the PS 4.5 is. So maybe we're just getting caught up on the words and the terminology.
Right.
Saying that PS 4.5 is iterative and that Xbox Next Box, maybe saying that's the next generation, or PlayStation's iterative, maybe it's really the same thing and we're just calling them two different things. But
that's very possible.
And again, it's so tough when you're going off speculation. Like we said, for Microsoft, for everything that we know, and we know nothing about like Nintendo and PlayStation, we really know nothing about Microsoft. They're just a big question mark for me right now. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see what they show.
It's really interesting. This whole industry is so fascinating to look at right now, because it could really go in several different directions, and maybe it will. Maybe it will go in several different directions at once. Maybe VR will be embraced by the mass market, while like augmented reality starts catching on with HoloLens, and maybe Nintendo is dabbling in that area as well. Like, we have no idea what NX is or what it does or how it works. We don't know. Maybe iterative consoles will be the next big thing. Maybe people will just start running out, and you start planning on, well, I'm not going to buy the PS5, but I'm going to wait for the PS5S. Maybe you start approaching your purchases like you would in upgrading an iPhone.
Oh, God,
and I am not.
The poor developers.
I know.
Oh, they're just crying right now, man. I can't even imagine.
And I'm not any way suggesting that like phone tech and console tech are even close, but I think that you can look at both spaces and you can learn things.
Yeah.
And we've already seen that. Like, we see that in the console space, the way games are designed. There are a lot of free-to-play tactics used, except they're still getting your $60 up front, as well as nickel and diming you, throughout the next year. Which hopefully that'll change. And I think next time we can talk about maybe more specifics in terms of like announcements from Sony and Microsoft and stuff we want to see, because we know like those are big question marks as well. We don't know what 2017 looks like for Sony. We have no idea what that looks like for Microsoft either. Like, we can speculate Crackdown is probably next year, but we don't know for sure. And then what else? What else is coming? But I think to kind of wrap this up, we teased it earlier.
Oh, jeez.
We teased it earlier.
Oh, don't do this to me. Don't do this.
I know.
Oh, no, it's not high. It's depressing and frustrating. And
while we talk about speculation of E3 and our fears and our dreams and desires, we should also briefly talk about our Pixel Pie in the Sky for this week.
So, oh God, I can't even. Just give me a second. Let me recover before I explain this. This is going to be really frustrating for many of you. So, Pixel Pie in the Sky. I just kind of wanted to throw the idea out that that we could discuss our dreams, the unicorns in the gaming universe, the things that we desperately want that will probably never happen. So really, it's kind of an S&M moment. Yeah, you like that tie-in?
Yeah, I like it.
It's kind of an S&M moment for us where we just like to torture ourselves and
we're tied in all right.
Imagine what will never be. So, God, Jason, you had to bring this one up. So our little discussion for today, for this episode, will be the Pokemon game that could be.
Man,
the possibilities. And this is something that you and I had joked about and talked about before, but
joked about. I wasn't kidding.
And every time we discuss it, we both end up in tears at the end.
Well, basically, because you know what has been done with other games and what a franchise and a world and a cast of characters, we'll probably be approaching, 900 Pokemon by the end of this year, potentially, if it's that many editions. 800 for sure. We'll cross that threshold. Like, we know what can be done with that type of game. And I want to hear you describe what Pokemon could be. You tell me what it should be.
In a world where Pokemon roam freely and you can go anywhere you want. No, just imagine a massive open world. You can literally explore anything, go anywhere, and it's filled with thousands of other players, other Pokemon trainers battling to be the next Pokemon master. And as far as like unlocking new areas, like I think we had discussed this before, the World of Warcraft model. Imagine like right now we get all these Pokemon games. You get Red, Blue, Yellow, Emerald, Black, Sun, Moon, everything, and the worlds never connect. But what if the worlds just continued to build an even greater world where you could continue to explore everything? Every time a new world is unlocked, you can still live in your old world and visit the new one, but it just unlocks more areas and more Pokemon, more legendaries, and it just continues to build a bigger and bigger and bigger world where anything is possible and where everybody in the world really is fighting to be the ultimate Pokemon master. Imagine having not just some little base like they started doing in the recent Pokemon games, but like you could have your own house and your own village, your own city. Like maybe start your own Pokemon clan. You could be the next Team Rocket. Like you don't have to be a good Pokemon trainer. You can be a bad one.
Oh no, I love this.
You could try to take over the world, man. So you've got these clans and people, everybody doing their own thing. Maybe somebody like in a lot of these MMO models, maybe somebody just wants to be a Pokemon breeder. Maybe somebody wants to be a Pokemon groomer. And you can do anything in the Pokemon world and it be what you want to be, explore what you want to explore in an ever expanding world where nothing is ever irrelevant. You never have to transfer Pokemon again. It just gets bigger and better.
So when you challenge a gym leader, maybe you are actually competing with other players to take that role of gym leader.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like that can be your clan.
Exactly.
Whether you're Team Rocket or I get with 10 of my buddies and we start I don't know, Kalos, I don't know what kind of gym we want to have. But that's the thing. You can make whatever gym you want.
Yeah, firefighting, represent. Let's do it.
Decorate it however you want. Show what you want. Like, build it how you want. And that...
So you start off.
Getting
in
excited
Pallet
and I
Town.
shouldn't be. I need to bring myself.
Pallet Town. We're gonna go old school on this. You start off in Pallet Town, and the progression is similar. You go through that specific continent, you battle the gym leaders, you catch them all, you challenge, not only your rival, could be more than one, you could have rivals.
Yep.
In this game, you blow through the Elite Four, through Victory Road, take on the champion, beat the champion, and then as soon as you do that those first 8 gyms through the Elite Four, that's really just all a tutorial.
Mm-hmm.
Because the moment you become champion, you have the option to fly that Pidgey you've been carrying around as an HM slave that you keep flying on the back of. He can't carry you guys. He cannot do it. But he can do it now once you're champion, and he can fly you to the next continent. And that opens up the rest of, the additional Pokemon from that area. And you keep unlocking continent after continent, town after town.
I'm even okay with them totally resetting the Pokemon universe. Let's start over, in Pallet Town. Let's start over with the first group. And you got was it Kanto?
Uh-huh.
Right. So you've got the Kanto region. So start with that. And then, after however many months, Nintendo can release the next area and then the next area. And then you just, you pay your 10, 15, 20, whatever bucks.
Yeah.
I would pay whatever they asked me to pay.
Everyone would.
Oh, yeah. No, that would be game ender. Like, for everything. If you're putting out any other games, just stop. Stop developing any game. Whatever you're making for whichever console, stop. It's pointless because everybody in the world would be playing Pokemon.
Yeah, you might as well just start developing for the Pokemon MMO. Close up shop, and you can be the Sun and Moon expansion that'll come out.
Yep. So, I think Nintendo's smart, and they're creative, and they're not dumb. They watch what's going on. They watch things that are successful. And this has to be a conversation they've had. This has to be a conversation. It's impossible that they have not thought about this. And I look at the little things that they've done. It's almost like they're experimenting, like with, was it X and Y where they started the what do you call it? Not a cave or a, where you can
the underground thing where you could interact.
Yeah, they started the underground, and then you could decorate your own little hideout or whatever.
Yeah.
So like they've started little things like that.
I think that's before. I think player interaction. We keep seeing bits and pieces of that, new pieces introduced in each iteration of this franchise. And I think ultimately, if we step away from the MMO concept, because I know a lot of people wouldn't like that idea. If you could just have all of those continents that we've seen from red and blue, green, all the way up through sun and moon, if you could see all of those kind of redesigned, using the same engine, the same layout, you can keep your Pokemon in the same continents in the same games. Just to allow the traversal, and I mean, I think, like, if I have to ask for anything, like, it's that. I understand that that you can't just have games infinitely upgraded, I guess, especially when you have like a series like Pokemon that sells tens of millions each release, right? It's like Call of Duty. As much as I want like a hub world in a way, I want that like Master Chief Collection approach where you start one game, you launch one game, and in there you have access to all the other games, right? And you can just like kind of pop in. And like this MMO approach, in my mind, would be, let me start the game, but then let me then travel with my same team. Just let me travel to the next one. Incentivize, like, don't ditch the old games. It's one thing I don't like about like shooters as they come out. I hate how like you spend all this time on like learning maps and strategies on maps, and then like the new game cuts out and developers just go, that's the old stuff, forget it. We'll remake it and resell it later. I would personally prefer that if a lot of this stuff could carry over, and then I'd rather pay for that and then pay for the developers to make those areas or those maps like more visually appealing. If you want to do like the Modern Warfare remastered, I will gladly pay for that upgrade, but let's have it upgrade from the same platform, basically, is what I would prefer. And I think with Pokemon, you could do the same thing. Like, let's see the red and blue that looks like Sun and Moon, and then make it so that my team can go back and forth.
See, the world that I'm thinking about releases with the NX.
Oh no!
No, I see. You're thinking handheld, maybe not. But you did say Sun and Moon. See, I'm thinking a world where all the Pokemon look like the Pokemon in Pokken Tournament, like fully realized, beautiful, gorgeous Pokemon, and with everything that Nintendo's doing at the NX, like I feel like this would be the perfect time. It's the 20th anniversary for Pokemon. Mm-hmm. The NX is launching. They're going to have a really powerful console. They've talked about having a console that like interacts. Again, this is all speculation, but it seems like they're going to have, something that interacts with the handheld and the mobile, and it's all, one platform. And I just think this could be the perfect opportunity to launch that kind of game.
At the NX reveal event at the end of this year, the lights dim. And as they slowly fade up, you see a world that looks kind of like the Zelda Wii U reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Just stretches of fields and forests and mountains as far as the eye can see. And then Pikachu hops out of the forest.
And that's it.
And that's it.
It's literally like 3 minutes of them showing this world.
And it like crashes to black, and it just throws
the last
up
thing you see is
2017 coming NX.
Tiny little Pikachu just runs out after 3 minutes. Pika.
Yep, that's
Boom.
it. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Our world
I guarantee you
will become yours.
People would die. Not figuratively.
Yeah.
People would have strokes and die at the press conference.
The YouTube reactions would be incredible is a light word to use.
Oh no, we were when and if this day comes, we need to have like a multi-stream going, like show everybody. I want to see Greg and Colin. I want to see Bossman and Bloodworth and all the guys. Like I want to have all the streams going. I just want to watch everybody break. I just want to watch them fall to pieces, especially Bossman. He's the one that I really want to see, because he would be in a little ball in the corner of the room, like shaking and crying and holding himself and screaming. Oh God!
Well, just think of the reaction from last year's E3, because game trailers had streamed like a video reaction of them watching the conferences and stuff,
mm-hmm.
and they had bets going about what would be announced and what would not be announced, and like the forms that certain games would come in if they were announced, and like their reaction alone to games like the Final Fantasy VII remake,
Shenmue.
Yep, Shenmue 3.
Oh my gosh.
All that stuff, like even The Last Guardian, like it exists.
Yeah.
Like that alone, for so many people who've been waiting, oh my gosh, 8 years, 9 years, however long it's been.
Seeing those reactions, those are some of my favorite moments, just watching people just be just out of their minds happy.
This is a world that I already love, and it pains me if I think about the reality. So I'm not going to. This is not the time to talk about reality.
If I can throw some speculation on the speculation.
Absolutely.
So now take this world that we've imagined and add in the new technology that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And now think about all your Pokemon and battling in that world in VR. Imagine looking down at your belt, picking off your Pikachu, Pokeball, throwing it out there, and watching this battle in real life?
I can't, honestly.
Now that would be the point where the society, our entire culture and society just crumbles as people stop going to work, they stop living their lives, they stop getting into relationships and having children, and they live on their VR system. That is how the world ends. That's it. Right there.
You thought WoW was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Wait until Pokemon World comes your way.
Oh.
Because like in VR, I'm a huge fan of the Stadium games and even Pokemon Battle Revolution on Wii. Like, it really hurt me that there was no Wii U battle or Stadium game that came out that was able to like tap into the Pokebank and like some of the new games, because to see those characters rendered, like even in Pokken Tournament, like, it's great. And I'd love to see that treatment, wherever. And what's cool is that in Sun and Moon, in one of the new trailers, I forget from who, like, it shows that there are now in the battles, like, there are observers watching you battle.
Mm-hmm.
So what if you are playing Pokemon World and it's not just putting on VR goggles to be the trainer? Absolutely. Like, I'm 100% for that. Maybe you can't move at all. Maybe you just have to stay in one spot, but you can like see your team like kind of battle in front of you. But just imagine being an observer of that and seeing these battles. It's like ripped straight out of like the anime pilot.
Oh my gosh.
The crowd's cheering, and it's just.
You think kids are bad now who are just like spend their entire time watching people play games? Like, take that world to the next level.
One of the commentators, one of the shoutcasters can be PewDiePie.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
He can do it live, and then you can sit next to him with your VR headset. You can sit next to PewDiePie. He'll tell you exactly what's happening on the field during the battle as you're watching.
He'll scream it at you.
Hey, you know what? He can scream if this happens. I'll let him scream the whole time.
No, man,
this is tragic. I'm kind of disappointed now ending
just
this.
Thinking about the amount of money Nintendo would break the system. Like, all bets are off. Other consoles are done. The gaming industry would fall to its knees and crumble.
See,
why?
And you could also tie in some of the functionality of Pokemon Go.
Oh yeah.
Where you go out in the real world and you're battling and you're collecting and catching and all that, and then you come and it logs into the Pokebank. It's all the same thing. So then when you get home, or maybe not home, maybe you pop out your NX handheld to access that world. All of your guys, all your new catches, they're in there. They're already waiting for you. So there's not like a separation of your collection. That's what was so brilliant about like the Pokebank system.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want all of your guys. You don't want your teammates who led you to victory through Diamond and Pearl. You don't want to leave them on that DS cart. You want to at least bring them in through the cloud to get to Sun and Moon. And to, X and Y and, and the future. Man.
And that, my friend, is the world that will never be.
Well,
pixel pie in the sky.
Yeah, what a sweet and bitter taste that pie has.
No, I just want to smash that pie, but I can't. It's ingrained in my soul now. Ever since we toyed with the idea, I'll never be able to forget that.
Yeah.
Or forgive Nintendo if it never happens.
This thing that we made up, Nintendo, I will never forgive you if you don't make it. I'm not going to talk about realities of any of this. Reality is for the other segments. This is Pixel Pie in the Sky.
Yes. Let us live in our fantasy world, if but for a moment.
Reality is Star Fox Zero.
Oh,
I'm kidding. I'm
that's
kidding.
that's a low blow. That's a low blow, Jason.
Well, I think that's it for us today.
I think that's it. I think that's a night ender right there.
The inaugural episode of the Joleedo Gamescast, which we crossed the 3-hour mark a while ago.
Very nice.
But that's okay. It's all about fun, about having a good conversation about video games. If you like us or love us, send us an email. You can send us an email at joleedogamescast@gmail.com.
And that's JOLEEDO.
Yep.
Gamescast.
Yep. GAMESCAST@gmail.com. If you like what you heard, follow us on Twitter at Joleedo, JOLEEDO, or on Tumblr at joleedo.tumblr.com. Or like us on Facebook. If you're listening to us on iTunes and you like the show, give us a 5-star rating. We survive solely on...
Do it.
We're not making any money on this, so we survive on ratings and rankings and your feedback and your support. I think that's it. I mean...
Yeah, hey, don't forget, you can also hit us up personally. We have our own accounts on Twitter. I am at Derek Dover, DERRICKDOVER. So feel free to hit me up on that.
I am probably going to change my Twitter. but for now, you can follow me or love me or hate me or whatever you want to do. Get a hold of me at Blind Imposter, BLINDIMPOSTER. And I think that's it. Anywhere else people need to follow?
No, I'm going to go get a 6-pack and drink myself to death because I've just what a way to end the show. Oh my gosh. This is maybe this pixel pie in the sky is not the best way to end the show because I'm just so sad.
The first and last pixel pie in the sky segment. I got to get ready to catch the East Coast feed of Game of Thrones.
Oh yes.
And later tonight, this episode of Gamescast, we haven't talked about like uploading schedules. We barely figured out a recording schedule for some of this stuff. So if you're listening and you like this, please bear with us for the next week or two as we figure some of these logistical things out.
Yeah, we'll get everything hammered out.
Yeah, I truly believe, the hardest part with something like this is jumping in and getting going. Mm-hmm. And once you get going, I had a great time doing this show today, and I think this is a fantastic excuse to take a couple hours or 3 or maybe more on the weekend to have a conversation with you and whoever else may show up in the future on this podcast. I think, but yeah, I got to get ready for Game of Thrones. Alex Lee will be joining me. We'll be recording tonight the second episode of Joleedo Thrones, right after the East Coast feed. Odds are, if you're listening to this, we uploaded it last night. I think I've been toying around with days and times, and you look at what other people are doing in the space, and what days, what times they upload stuff, and as we expand the Joleedo network, as we move into podcasts to talk about politics. Politics is the reason why we started this whole venture. So as soon as we can, we're going to go heavy duty into politics. In the future on Gamescast, we're going to talk about news and announcements. We didn't cover that today, but I think we were having too much of a good time talking about E3 and Nintendo, if you can call that a good time. To cover news other than like the Pokemon Sun and Moon announcement. But we're also looking into a podcast dedicated to music and independent artists. We're looking at all kinds of stuff. We're looking at comic books and superheroes. We're looking at
all kinds of things. Everything you dream and think about and love. There'll be a podcast for it. Anything we have an interest in, we're probably going to cover in one way, one form, one shape, or another. And hey, if you enjoyed this, give us your feedback. What kind of stuff would you like to hear us talk about? It doesn't have to be games. You want to hear us talk about movies,
or TV or sports or whatever it is, once again, hit us up on Twitter and let us know at Joleedo, Joleedo.
Joleedo.
I think that's it for me. Derek,
That's it for me.
All right. On behalf of the Joleedo Gamescast and
Ladies
the
and
illustrious Derek Dover,
Oh, thank you. You're too kind.
it
You're
was
too
brought
kind.
to
Thank
you
you.
live from Los Angeles, California. I am, I don't know, I was going to say your host, but we're both hosts. I'm your second co-host. I don't know. I'm Jason
We're here.
Johnson from Las Vegas. And like, subscribe, share with your friends. We'll see you next time.